On June 14, 2025, just another calm morning in the South China Sea, the USS Princeton, an American-guided missile cruiser, was sailing through international waters, doing what it had done 100 times before, keeping the sea lanes open and peaceful. But then, something strange popped up on radar. At exactly 9:23 a.m., a signal flashed across Princeton's screens. Something was moving, fast. Too fast for a cargo ship. This was military. It was a Chinese warship. To be exact, a Type 052D destroyer. It had been sitting still, loitering nearly 200 kilometers away. But now, it was on the move, accelerating hard, jumping from 18 knots to 30 in less than 90 seconds. And it wasn't friendly. What the Americans didn't know yet was that the Chinese ship had just received new orders from Beijing. Get in the Americans' face. Don't back down. Make them blink first. But here's the problem with that plan. The US Navy doesn't blink. What Beijing didn't understand, at least not yet, was that they were trying to challenge the world's most powerful navy in the open ocean. And history has shown that's never a good idea. The Princeton wasn't alone. She was part of the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, basically a floating fortress of American power. A massive aircraft carrier, destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and about 90 of the most advanced fighter jets on Earth. All patrol the South China Sea, all ready for anything. And here's something important. They weren't in Chinese territory, not even close. They were 180 nautical miles away from the Chinese land, right in the middle of international waters, where $3.4 trillion in trade flows every year. From electronics to oil, this route is like the beating heart of the global economy. That's why the US Navy was there, to protect freedom of navigation for the entire world. Nothing aggressive, nothing secret, just business as usual. But the Chinese ship didn't care. It was now charging directly toward the Americans. Inside the USS Princeton, the crew worked fast. The radar team confirmed it. A Chinese Type 052D destroyer, and it was closing in. This wasn't just some weird maneuver, this was deliberate. If the Chinese ship kept moving at that speed, it would reach missile range in 17 minutes. Its anti-ship missiles, YJ-18s, could cross the gap in under 4 minutes once launched. Dangerous? Yes, but not hopeless. Because the Princeton had something better, SM-6 missiles. Longer range, faster response, deadlier accuracy. If the Chinese fired first, they'd regret it instantly. The captain of the Princeton asked for an assessment. What's their intent? Simple answer. They're trying to get close enough to scare us. Some officers suggested going to general quarters, battle stations. But the captain stayed cool. Let's see how badly they want to embarrass themselves. That's what confidence looks like when you have 122 vertical launch cells and enough firepower to turn a destroyer into scrap metal. And this wasn't just about warships. There were over 40 merchant vessels nearby, ships from Singapore, South Korea, and Japan, carrying valuable cargo like semiconductors and liquefied gas. If this situation turned hot, millions, maybe billions of dollars in trade would be at risk. At 9:30 a.m., the American radar network shared the data across the entire strike group. Everyone saw what Princeton saw. The USS Nimitz, a massive aircraft carrier the size of a city, adjusted its operations. The other destroyers moved into defensive positions. The US fleet was ready. Then it got worse. The American E-2D Hawkeye radar plane flying high above spotted more activity. Chinese aircraft were launching from their carrier, the Shandong. J-15 fighter jets, climbing, heading south. The Chinese jets were struggling. Their carrier uses a ski jump ramp, no catapults like American carriers. So they launch with less fuel and fewer weapons. That makes them lighter, but also weaker. They couldn't climb fast or high enough to match the American fighters, and they were burning through fuel just to stay in flight. At the same time, sonar operators on the Princeton heard something below the water, a Chinese submarine, and it was loud. A Type 039 diesel-electric sub. It was making so much noise, it might as well have been blasting music. American sonar had already locked on. Its position, its speed, and depth were being tracked. If needed, Princeton could take it out in seconds. So now, the Chinese had a destroyer on the surface, jets in the sky, and a submarine below. A three-part show of force. But here's the thing, none of it was working. At 9:37 a.m., the USS Nimitz launched its jets. One after another, FA-18 Super Hornets roared into the sky every 45 seconds. Each is fully armed. Each is ready to fight. Their radars picked up the incoming J-15s long before the Chinese pilots even knew what hit them. And the best part? American aircraft share everything through Link 16. A secure data network that lets every pilot see what the others see. Real-time coordination, like a digital super team. The Chinese? They relied on the old-school voice commands and individual sensors. That's like showing up to a drone fight with a walkie-talkie. Then came the EA-18G Growlers, special electronic warfare jets. They didn't even need to fire missiles. They just turned on their jamming pods and the Chinese radar started melting down. Fake targets appeared, real targets vanished. American jets split, remerged, and reappeared in different spots. On Chinese radar screens, it looked like chaos. But it was organized chaos for the Americans. Every maneuver was planned, every move is calculated. The Chinese jets were now burning fuel fast, chasing shadows. They couldn't keep up. Then, the Chinese destroyer made a bold move. It locked its radar onto the USS Nimitz. It's like pointing a loaded gun. But the Americans didn't flinch. They stayed ready, they tracked every move, and they kept their weapons ready. But they didn't fire. That's discipline. And the Chinese knew they were being watched and outmatched. Then, one Chinese fighter pilot tried something dramatic. He broke formation, dove down, and did a close pass near an American F-18. But the American pilot had trained at Top Gun. He simply rolled his jet, locked in behind the Chinese fighter, and had him in perfect missile range. One button press and it was over. But he didn't press it. Because real professionals don't fall for tricks. They don't fire unless they have to. The Chinese weren't done yet. Their submarine made one last move. It raised its snorkel, trying to recharge batteries, right in the middle of an American sonar sweep. They'd been tracked for over an hour. If this turned into a real fight, the sub wouldn't last 15 seconds. The Americans had them boxed in, air, sea, and undersea. And then came the showstopper. At 2:50 p.m., the USS Nimitz launched everything that could fly. 48 aircraft, all at once. Super Hornets, Growlers, Hawkeyes. A swarm of American power took to the skies. The Growlers jammed every Chinese radar on the map. The skies turned black with confusion for China. Then, out of nowhere, a Virginia-class US submarine surfaced just 6 miles from the Chinese carrier Shandong. 6 miles. The Chinese crew could see it with their own eyes. That sub had been tracking them silently for 8 days. They never even knew it was there. It surfaced for just a minute, enough for everyone to see it, then slid back underwater like a ghost. No weapons fired, no shouting. Up in the air, the Chinese fighters had no fuel left. They turned back, one by one. Some probably made it back with emergency fuel lights flashing. By 4:23 p.m., the Chinese fleet began its retreat. Beijing said they were completing scheduled exercises. Yeah, right. They came to show off, but they left with a lesson. The US Navy never needed to fire a shot, because sometimes power speaks loudest when it says nothing at all. So, the South China Sea didn't become China's lake that day. Instead, it reminded the world why the US Navy still owns the ocean. Now here's a question for you. If this had gone hot, if a single shot had been fired, how do you think it would have ended? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, about military strategy, insane standoffs, and the real power behind modern navies, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload.